So right guys, welcome back to another video. In this one I'm just going to show you how to swap your bearings out if you've got a DT Swiss rear wheel and you're just wondering how to swap them. And this applies to a R21 DiCut, which I'm going to show you, an R23 Spline, an R32, an R24, those types of wheels. So I'll go ahead and show you the stages. It's pretty straightforward. I'll say regards to what bearings your wheels take, then once you remove the bearings you can look on the actual bearings themselves on the casing, and you can see a number on the bearings. So if you can just get those bearings online, or you go through your local bike shop or wherever, or bearing supplier. If you're not sure what the bearings are, then take them to a good supplier and they'll be able to match them up for you, or just punch the numbers into something like Google, and you can 9 times out of 10 find the bearings you're looking for. They're not expensive. Just go for a good quality bearing. So I'll show you the steps. If you're not confident with it, then obviously the best thing to do is take it to a bike shop and let them install the bearings for you. But I suppose, like I say, it's not a difficult job. Regards to checking them, obviously if your wheel's really noisy anyway, your bearings are a lot more than likely gone. But 9 times out of 10, if you remove your free hub, and you can just spin the wheel with the free hub not on there, and you can feel the bearings. If they're gritty, as they don't spin smoothly, or they start to get noisy or whatever, then obviously they need replacing. Many people don't bother replacing them, and 9 times out of 10 you're probably running around on bearings that could be doing with replacement. So they don't last forever. It's like anything. If you're riding your bike a lot, especially in the wet conditions, then the bearings will they don't last forever. I mean, these are cartridge bearings. Most modern wheels now are cartridge bearings. They're better than the old cup and cone bearings that just didn't last at all long. So I say, yeah, I'll go ahead and get on and show you how to do it. Right guys, there's a quick look at the inside of the rear hub itself. So you can see the teeth inside where the free hub engages onto, just there, and obviously the wheel bearing is sitting there as well for the drive side. If you flip the wheel over, you can just see where the non-drive side wheel bearing is sitting into there. Regards to the parts that come inside the wheel, we've got them there, so I'll just go ahead and show you how they fit on. Right, so here we have the actual shaft itself. This is the drive side, that's the non-drive side. You see the steps there where the wheel bearing's set up against, and this part here is inside the middle of your hub. Just going round, you don't even see that, just spinning around in there. In regards to the bearings, obviously that's the drive side bearing, and that's the non-drive side bearing. So you can see the difference in the size and the thickness. The bearing is just a lot smaller, obviously because the drive side bearing's under a lot more load. It's the side with the cassette on it, therefore it's a bigger bearing than the non-drive side, which is a small one like that. So basically all you're going round on is that when your bike's going on the road, just these two little bearings like that. So hence why you want them in good condition. As regards to how they go on the shaft, you got the shaft like so. All you got is drive side bearings on there like so, and the non-drive side is on there. It's just a internal spacer shim goes on there. This is a DT Swiss hub. with a pull system, 3-hub like so, and obviously a 3-hub body go over there like that, so slide all the way on and go over the spacer so it's up inside like that, as you can see, and then your end cap goes on the end there. What your quick release skewer or whatever goes through the middle of, like so. See, that's that just pops over there like so, like that. So that's the main parts to it. So right guys, when you're ready, you've got your new wheel bearings, like so. You're ready to reinstall them back into the wheel. You obviously start with the drive side. Now, if you're watching this and yours is a DT Swiss wheel and it uses a pull hub, obviously inside you've got the ratchet inside, which I'll just show you. You can see inside there the teeth that engage into the 3-hub. Now this bearing goes down inside there. Basically it just clears the teeth when you put it in. So first of all, you want to grease inside where the bearing sits. Make sure you've got grease on it, and make sure you've greased the outer, give it a light coating of grease on the outer surface of the bearing here, just to help it go in when you're actually putting it in. So I'll go ahead and grease this up, and I'll grease in there, and then I'll show you how to put that bearing in. Right guys, so once you've greased the bearing, you can go ahead and just put it on your finger like that and just sit it in there. So that's just rested in there. Make sure that before you go and put it in, make sure it's sitting flush and it's not in crooked. Just make sure it's actually sitting in there nice and straight. You haven't got it crooked. Now sometimes to initially get it started, you could almost get this started by pushing on it with your hand, and it will just go in a little ways, not a lot, but it will just get it. So is it, you push quite hard on it like so. You can see that's already gone in. It's got it in, it's got it started by doing that. It's got it started square. It hasn't gone in crooked. If it goes in crooked, remove it straight away. Don't continue to put it in crooked. Make sure it's nice and straight. So once you've done that initially, what you then got to do to get that bearing in, it's got to go quite a way in there. So obviously you won't be able to do it by hand. So I'll show you the next step. So next step you want to be doing is get yourself a block of wood, like so, and then put it underneath the hub. Just put the block of wood on the floor, like on the flat surface, and then you get your wheel again and sit that on the block of wood there, so nice flat area, and then use the socket like so, that basically is roughly the same size, and you can see as the bearing to hit on. It's got to hit on the outer race of the bearing there. You don't want to be smashing it on the middle or where the black seal is, because you damage the actual bearings. It's got to be sitting flush with it outside with the bearing. Once you've got something like that, once you've found a socket, then you can go ahead and gently hit that in a bit at a time. So right guys, as you see, it's now all the way in, and you can see that the socket, like so, will fit just in down inside there without touching the teeth or anything. It just sits in there nice like that. So when you're hitting it in, it'll go past the teeth on the ratchet there, where the ratchet goes, the free hub. It'll just fit in there like that, so the bearing, you can easily tap the bearing in without doing any damage to anything else. So once that stage is done, you can put the shaft back through from the non-drive side. So just get your wheel like so, and then basically your shaft there, you put your shaft back through, and it'll just slide straight through like so until it stops. And then once you've done that, you're ready to grease up this bearing and where it sits, and you're ready to install this side, non-drive side. So right guys, once you've got the shaft down through and you put some grease around where the bearing's going to sit, just put some grease around the outside of the bearing as well, just to help it. And it also keeps out any water as well, so you're better off just smearing grease on it, and then it just keep out some of the water, especially if you're using the wet, or if you just wash your bike a lot, the water still gets in there regardless, but it just keeps some of that water out from going into the actual bearings themselves. So once you've done that, you can just rest that bearing on top by hand again, and you can start it by hand just by pushing on it like so. You might even, if you're lucky, you might be able to push it down some of the way by hand. If not, then you can use a socket again and just gently tap it in. This time you just don't need such a big hammer, that one, and almost go in. You can almost push it in by hand, but I know it won't go in all the way by hand, so you just have to give it a tap just to seat it properly. So right guys, before you go tapping it in, after you've pushed it in as much as you can by hand, make sure it's straight again. Find the appropriate size socket, so it's just resting on the outside of the bearing, not on the not hitting it on the bearings themselves. Just got to be hitting it on the outside outside of the bearing case, sorry. Once you found that, what you got to do is find a couple of bits of wood just to keep it up off the ground. So obviously you've got the shaft, what the free hub goes on, sticking down, so therefore you can't just hit it on the floor like you can the opposite side. So just block it up off the ground slightly, and then just find the appropriate size socket. Like I said, make sure it sits on there flush like so, and then get your soft hammer and just give that a tap down in. They don't take a lot of, it doesn't go in very far, so just tap it down till it stops, and then that's the two bearings in. So right guys, once the non-drive side bearings installed, like so, you just get your end cap and pop that back on. So before you put it on, just put some grease over it, because it just helps to keep the water out the bearing itself. So you can go ahead and just pop that back on there. It should just sit on there like so. Then you're back to the drive side. Obviously you got your internal shim spacer there. Now what you want to do is grease this and grease the shaft where it sits before you put it on. Just stop this getting stuck onto the shaft, because if it does, then it's the devil to remove. So it's better just to give it a grease up and grease the shaft, just so you know it's going to come off again when you need it to. So right guys, once you've got the shim in place there, the spacer sat down the bottom there, then you're ready just to put your free hub back on. Now if it's just the body or you've still got it attached to the cassette, which either way, make sure that's cleaned and greased up again with the proper DT Swiss grease on the free hub. So you go ahead and put that back on. So you slide that back on and it should sit down in there. And then all you do is, once you've done that, you just push down on the end cap like so. Now just make sure it's on. So right guys, that's the assembly complete. Now I showed you how to assemble it, but what I didn't show you is how you take it apart. I did actually take it apart, but the camera wasn't playing ball. So what I'll do is I'll quickly show you now. If you want to know how to take it apart, for instance, then you just go ahead, remove your free hub to start with. So once you've got the free hub removed, what you want to do is the bearing, the shaft as you see it now with the free hub not on it, is you can just take off the shim, take that off like so, and what you want to do is then spin it over. So just flip the wheel over and remove the end cap off this side, the non-drive side end cap. So once you got that removed, you can see the bearing there inside. Now what you got to do is put it up on a block of wood to start with, 2 blocks, one either side, so they're not making contact with the shaft in the middle, just one resting either side of it. Or if you get a socket that just fits round in here without touching on this, just fits inside sits on the flat piece there, then you can put it down on the floor with the socket underneath it, like so it's not touching the ground. And then what you got to do is you want to get a soft blow hammer, and preferably a piece of wood or something, so you're not hitting directly on this shaft, because it will damage it very easily. And once you've burred the end, then you've had it, it's scrap. So what you want to do is hit down on this, obviously with a socket or something, so it's chocked up off the ground, so it allows it to come back out that way, because they come back out the non-dry side. They don't come up this way, they always go down that way. So you got to hit on top of there with something soft protecting it, block of wood or whatever, and hit it down through, so it just pops out the other side and it'll knock the bearing out with it as it comes through. Then once you've done that, the shaft then won't be in here. You'll just be left with the bearing you see down in there, the drive side bearing will just be left in there. So then what you do is, with the shaft not in the way, you spin the wheel back over again, and obviously this and the bearing won't be in there. So then if you know the bearing's bad, you're not reusing it, you can just put a socket down through here, a deep extension socket, and then it'll be resting on the bearing on the other side. Then you can go ahead, and obviously the shaft won't be sticking down no more, because that's come out this way. So you can just chock it up off on it, just rest it on something flush, because you've got to be able to hit the bearing out. So just sit it on the ground on something soft or a block of wood, and then hit it from this side down with a deep drive socket, even with the extension on it if you have to, and you can knock it back down through gently. So hit it back down through, and then just keep checking and make sure you watch it come out through this side. And then obviously as it's coming out, then the last hit you want to lift it up off the ground a bit and just give it a tap, and the bearing will just fall out. And then the bearings have been removed then, and you can go ahead and just clean everything up and refit it like I showed you to. So yeah, I say I did record it, but say for some reason the camera wasn't playing ball, so that's why I didn't get it actually on camera, but that's how easy it is to do anyway. and then it's just a case of refitting it back up again.